Hello and welcome, friends. Welcome to another episode where I review vintage fountain pens. Today I have for you a beautiful fountain pen made in Germany, I think. In fact, this is a little bit of mystery, guys, because we have this classic cigar shape fountain pen, and I think that it was produced in Germany in the 1950s based on its design. In fact, we have a clue of its origin right here. Regia-Gold. When I first seen this engraving on this thicker ring, I thought to myself, Regia, this could be an Italian fountain pen. But then, judging by the way it is built and by the filling mechanism, I thought it is a German fountain pen. And when I saw its nib, I was simply blown up because this is not a regular nib, guys. This is a beautiful 14 karat 585 DEGUSSA Nib. Well, you can recognize a DEGUSSA Nib by that logo with a diamond shape with that half sun. So, the name is DEGUSSA. I will concentrate first on this nib because this is the main reason I bought this no-name fountain pen, especially for this gold nib. When you find yourself this logo, I advise you to buy that nib, and I will show you why. First of all, I like my history lesson, and you should know the history of this German nib producer. If you're not familiar with this with this famous German nib producer, it is because they ended their activity in the 1970s. But during the 1950s and the 1960s, and even starting from the 1930s, they played a major role in equipping different pen manufacturers from Germany with their branded nibs. You can see with this logo with the sun, but also they made nibs with the name of their producers. So, first of all, the Degussa name stands for, and pardon my German, Deutsche Gold und Silber Scheidenstalt, and in English, the German Gold and Silver Extracting Company. Practically, this Degussa had the plant in the German town of Pforzheim, and this firm supplied the jewelry industry as well as the companies that produce writing instruments with precious metals they needed in their production. But in 1932, Degussa had the opportunity to buy the nib production department from Osmia, and they set up in Dusenheim a new factory, hiring around 80 people. They had this opportunity in 1932 because the great German producer Osmia had some difficulties with the cash flow brought by some investments done by the Americans and also by the low sales of writing instruments and of course the Great Depression. You must know that in back in those days it was becoming more and more harder to produce gold nibs, not only because of and the main reason it was their cost of production. But in 1936, the German government declared a total prohibition on the production of gold nibs. DEGUSSA had to adapt to the new condition of the market, and they developed an alloy from silver and palladium, which they called palig. And in 1938, the German authorities also banned the use of palladium. And practically until 1943, Degussa applied a stainless high quality alloy steel called V4A Supra. You must know that the problem with the steel nibs is they corrode in time. This steel was a special steel which had a metallic brown color and made a impression to be like a gold nib, but it was more resistant than the simple steel. Of course, after 1943, because of the lack of materials and the way Germany was losing the war, they had to use lower quality materials till 1945 at the end of the war. After the war, they had a period of revival when they started producing again gold nibs like this gold nib, which I presume it was made around the middle of the 1950s. But unfortunately, they ended their nib production in the 1970s, maybe due to low sales or due to the competition of the ballpoint pen, which brought many famous producers like Shonaken had to close their gates due to poor sales in the fountain pen department. The factory went to Mutzer or Reform. Interesting that the Gusa interesting that the Gusa name still is in business, and also this interesting logo is still in business. If you search the Gusa, you will see that there is a firm which has the same logo, and they are involved also in the gold and silver market. So, enough of the history lesson, guys. I'm sorry, I don't do this, but you must know the importance of the Gusa gold nib. Actually, the fountain pen is quite simple, and I will show it to you. So we have a blind cap here. It is a piston filler specific to the 1950s with an ink window. Unfortunately, I couldn't disassemble it to clean better the ink window, but I did my best. When it came to me, the ink window was completely covered by ink inside of it. So this is a bad thing. Never leave for a long period of time the ink in your fountain pen. I didn't test if the piston is functional. As you can see, it rotates and it has that old wooden cork. Let me show it to you. So you can see it has that wooden cork. I didn't test it to see if I can draw up ink with that old cork. In general, they need to be replaced ever from a decade or after 10 years they need to be replaced. So quite a simple fountain pen. I presume it was made with celluloid, but if it's from early 1950s. If it is from the late 1950s, this could be injected plastic. And again, a mystery for me is this Regia-Gold manufacturer. Unfortunately, the cap has a little bit of problem because it lacks the clip. This fountain pen was definitely fitted with a clip, but it broke from this part, as you can see right here. I tried to find information about Regia-Gold on the fountain pen network, but I couldn't find them in Italy or in Germany. Other engraving that is helpful to us, it's at the end of the barrel, thermically imprinted OM. And OM stands for the size of the nib, oblique medium. So if you watch carefully at the end of the trade, you can see that we have an oblique nib, in the sense that one tine is shorter than the other tine. Now guys, I will show you la piece de la resistance. Look at this flexiness of the nib. I can hardly wait to do a writing sample with it. What is interesting about this fountain pen, it is also this feed, which is quite elegant. It definitely reminds me of the ski slide type of feed used by Montblanc in its early 1950s celluloid models. Quite elegant. Now guys, I will leave its dimensions on the screen. As a size reference, I have here a Montblanc Meisterstück 146 from 1983, and also a great Jinhao 159, which you know it has the same dimension as Montblanc Diplomat or Montblanc Meisterstück 149. So quite a small fountain pen in comparison with the other two modern fountain pens. Again, I will leave the dimensions on the screen. And for the writing sample, guys, I think to myself that maybe it's time to use a nice color, and why not a modern Faber-Castell pink ink. I think it will show us what that nib can do. Let me see first of all if I can fill it up with ink. You can see that the level of the ink is quite low. So like a trick, you can fill it like this. Be careful when you open it not to spill the ink. Okay. Now it's difficult. I will use both of my hands, or maybe I will. Yes, I will show you to this part. So now I'm trying to uncap the fountain pen. Okay. Now let's see if I can, with one hand, remove the blind cap. Yes. And now I will dip it in ink. Now, okay, some bubbles. Now I'm curious to see if this cork is still functional. Oh yes, it drew the ink quite well. And now you can see the ink window is no longer visible. Let me remove the excess of the ink. And let me see if I have a tissue right here. I usually do. Yes, I have it right here. So I will remove the excess of the ink from the grip section. Okay. I will put the tissue here. Now guys, after you use the ink bottle, always remember to put back the cap. Okay. I will put back the blind cap. You can see here the ink. Okay. Let me see if we can cap it. Strangely, yes, it could be capped, but not as good as I was expecting. So no, this can't be capped. But now, so I have again, the fountain pen is called Regia-Gold. So Regia-Gold. I presume it was made in the 1950s, so in the middle of the 1950s, 1955, made in Germany. If you know this brand, it could be a brand from Italy fitted with a German nib. I'm not so sure, but I couldn't find much more information about this producer. So 1955 made in Germany, fitted with a 14 karat 585 oblique medium nib. But now, guys, you will see something unbelievable, the flex of this nib. And to enjoy it, I did that zoom. Look at this. Look at this flex. Beautiful, beautiful, flexible nib. Well, it's not as flexible as other fountain pens, but this is the reason I like vintage nibs made in Germany in the 1950s. Interesting, we have flexible but not no line variance. The inflow is quite high. I'm not so sure I like it. So an oblique nib, you can see thick lines and the other lines. Quite a juicy nib. I'm quite curious to see if we can reverse write with it. So let me zoom and try to reverse write with it. Focus please. Yes. Reverse writing. Definitely a possibility, and I think it writes like an F. F nib, F fine, and in normal an oblique medium. I bet it is a wonderful signature piece, and I'm not mistaken, because of the oblique nib and in combination with the slight flexibility, it is wonderful. Again, this isn't an ordinary nib, this is a DEGUSSA nib, a wonderful nib. So reverse writing, I checked the signature capability. Now I'm ready to tell you about the Fox. And for this, guys, maybe it's time to change a little bit the angle of the camera. Yes, this is what I want. I will try to write as large as I can for you guys to see better. So the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Quite nice, quite nice, guys. I'm pleased to have in my collection a gold DEGUSSA Nib. I was searching for one for such a long time. I definitely have some steel nibs made by DEGUSSA, I believe in the 1960s or at the end of their activity, which fitted some fountain pens made in Romania. I think that the DEGUSSA was part of the East Germany, and this is why they had that trade relations with Romania because they were both communist countries, and they had privileged, let's say, commercial relationships between them. What can I say, guys? A wonderful, wonderful nib. If you don't have in your collection a DEGUSSA Nib, you should search for one. I'm not so sure that they are expensive, but they are definitely, definitely nice, nice, flexible nibs. And this is one of my favorite nib because it's an oblique nib, and you know my passion for broad and oblique nibs. Guys, this was my review of quite an obscure fountain pen producer, but fitted with a famous nib made by DEGUSSA. By the way, guys, DEGUSSA fitted other small producers, German producers back in those days, but also Italian producers. So this is why Regia-Gold, it remains a mystery. Maybe you can help me in your comments if you know something about this brand. Share it with me, because I really couldn't find much information on dedicated fountain pen forums. Thank you for your time. This was my review. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel to support my activity. I want to wish you to have a nice day, guys, wherever you are. Please take care of yourself in this pandemic time. I will see you at the next episode. Till then, bye bye and God bless.